Thank you. Awesome. So this is a really exciting panels, and I'm so excited to talk to more students, learning more about your ambitions, what you want to do. But to all our speakers here, so many students here are interested in joining startup or starting a startup, but they still have not seen any pathway to become a founder, or not really ready to even pursue the entrepreneur journey. So the question to you all is, what really attracted you first in a startup ecosystem or entrepreneur journey? Starting from Melissa?
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. So really excited to be on this panel. Thank you to Korea Society for inviting me to join. So I actually, as was mentioned earlier, work for the New York City Economic Development Corporation. So we are a quasi-governmental agency that is investing in the innovation economy here in New York. And I can talk about some of the programs that were mentioned later, like the Startup and VC internship programs, like our Founder Fellowship program. But I really came into this as someone who is really interested in investing in the future of New York. So I'm a native New Yorker. I grew up here, and my background is really in how to strengthen our economy. And so is New York City NYCEDC's mission is to really strengthen that economy and make it vibrant, equitable for the long term. Part of that is investing in the tech ecosystem and also investing in our tech founders. So I feel like the way that I came into this is really thinking about the exciting opportunities for startup founders to really solve problems here in New York City creatively, ambitiously. I feel like a lot of people here who are founders are also like very scrappy as well and really embody that like New York City like entrepreneurial mindset. So for me, I was very interested in thinking about the ways that founders could help solve problems here, and then also how could I, in my position, really invest in those founders and give people who are interested in entrepreneurship those types of opportunities.
Thank you. And the same question to you, Linda. What excites you, or what the first kind of moment that you joined as a startup or helping an entrepreneur ecosystem?
안녕하세요, 여러분.
와,
저는 한국인이 아닙니다. Which is to say that I am not Korean, but I'm very honored to be here. Thanks to the Korea Society, and shout out to my Korean professor in college. And so I have been in startup land my entire career. I'm currently representing Dorm Room Fund here, but let me tell you a little bit about how I ended up here. I was actually not exposed to startups or entrepreneurship really at all when I was in college. And then I got my first job at the Harvard Innovation Labs, which is like the Center for Student Entrepreneurship there. And I was a community manager. And I really fell in love with startup land there because I met people who wouldn't take no for an answer, who were obsessed with an idea, and for whom the reason to do something was because it hasn't been done before. I thought I wanted to go into government before, and I was just so frustrated by how the reason they wouldn't do something is because it hasn't been done before. And I was like, isn't that the point? And so when I finally met my people, I realized I wanted to build a career in this space. And so my next job actually was to become the first employee at a fintech startup that was built by 2 students. And then after that, I ended up at Gold House, where I got to, and we'll see later on in the panel probably how some of our paths cross, but I was lucky enough to get to lead an accelerator for Asian American founders and build community for Asian American founders. And I just want to say that for perhaps a lot of us, entrepreneurship was not the most obvious path. But I want to implore you, if you are interested in finding your calling and doing something that is meaningful to you, maybe bigger than yourself, that this is a very exciting path to follow, and that we're all here to share some resources so that you can chase that calling.
Thank you, Linda. And Unsu, as a student, what attracted you to join as a startup, and how do you navigate this startup ecosystem?
so when I was a college student, I used to study fine art, and it's pretty hard to like survive as an artist in South Korea. So some of my friends decide to kill themselves. Some of my other friends decide to like, they had a lot of like, they got a serious depression. So I also wanted to like leave that country because of those kind of reasons. But so I got a random job at a startup, and my boss, he was from BCG, like Boston Consulting Group, and he taught me how to see the forest, not like individual tree. And he also like give me some like knowledge that like how can I make some money using my aptitude and skills. So after I got experience, I tried to something like contents or like some business for myself to build my name. For instance, like I used to work as a like journalist. So during the daytime, I create some like article for my company. But after finish my work, I also generate some like text contents for by myself. So those kind of experience helped me to like naturally like create like build my own startup. So I think the fundamental reasons why I start my like own business is just because of money. But I just want to be something for artists as well, because normally people believe that people who study fine art cannot make a lot of money. But I just want to be like a kind of like a one of the hope for artists as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for all sharing and making an introduction of your background and how you jump into the startup and ecosystem. And the second question is really the practical questions to the students as well. So starting from Unsu, so before I think you kind of touched upon a lot of things here, but before awards and recognitions, what was the very first moment that you realized I'm actually building something really, really cool? And what was the first step in practice?
So when I was a high school student, I used to study creative writing. And when I entered that high school, I didn't know how to write down something. But some of my friends and like teacher told me to like just do it. And I trust that word and try to write down something on the papers. So they also mentioned that like Unsu, the first result outcome will be very poor, but you have to endure that moment. So I just tried to endure that moment over like 6 months, and I got a first award from the like national scale competitions. But after I got that experience, when I like end of my high school, I got like over 20 awards from like a national scale writing contest, and I feel like this kind of achievement made me to like feel more confident and make me more like brave to do something. So if you want to build a like new startup or business, just do it and then like endure the like that shitty time. Then you guys can make something. Yeah.
Just do it. It is. All right. Moving on to Linda. Before you joined the Dorm Room Fund, you supported early stage startup founders through the Harvard Innovation Lab and the Gold House. And this is like intersections that we have about how have those experiences shaped your ability to recognize the early signal of the potential of these startups.
Yeah, I mean, I've really had the honor of getting to meet and work with probably over 1,000 founders in my time, and I just love being around you guys. That's why I want to do this job. That's why I love, I love doing what I do. And from an investor standpoint and from kind of, an ecosystem standpoint, it really is about like to be able to do my job well, I need to meet a lot of you guys. I need a lot of data points. I was lucky enough to get to see the good, the bad, and the very ugly. And so when I get to advise a founder now, I can say, wait, have you thought about this different way of thinking about your idea? Have you thought about this market? Have you thought about going to market in this other way? Because I've seen other startups perhaps do it this other way. And so I can help more startups refine their ideas and, be a little bit more creative or maybe shift their idea. Maybe I say, I've seen another startup that's done this before. Have you thought about another way? And so it's really just about seeing a lot in order to, be able to recognize maybe a good idea that hasn't been built before or a good idea with a good team in an exciting space. And I will say, I know this is about, ideas and I this question about ideas, but I think at the early stage, it's really about the founder. So I really try to deeply get to know the founder and their reasons for doing it and their background, because ultimately I think, especially at the early stage, so many things can change, the market can change, but I think good founders can find the market and they can kind of pivot their idea to something that fits what is currently needed.
Lovely. Melissa, for the now from the government perspectives, right? So you've been supporting the startups and the VCs that getting connected to the college talent. What are some of the common misconceptions that the student entrepreneurs have before entering to the NYC ecosystem compared to the Silicon Valley?
Yeah, that's a question that I get asked a lot in terms of like why New York City versus why build in New York City versus Silicon Valley. And I feel like New York City has so many unique strengths in its tech ecosystem that people don't even realize. We have 360,000 people here working in tech-enabled jobs. We have 25,000 startups. We have 1,200 VC firms here in New York City. So I feel like we not only have the talent, but then we also have the connections to capital. And then we also have the diversity of industry, which I feel like is unmatched in a lot of different other kind of like markets where you're thinking about where should I apply my technologies. New York City has all of these industries, aka a large customer base for founders to really like play around and like experiment and like see where their solutions are going to fit. So whether that's finance, whether that is fashion, whether that is healthcare, like there's so many ways that you can kind of like put your idea out there and build. And I feel like that's what makes New York City really unique. And that's what I also feel like sets it apart a little bit from Silicon Valley. And then also, I feel like when we're talking about, when I also do a lot of business development in my role and thinking about like talking to a lot of startups who are interested in moving to New York City. And I feel like also they say like, oh, the city is very expensive, and kind of like, how do I navigate that? I also feel like it's very expensive. Sometimes one thing I do like to say is also that people are able to scale a lot faster here as well because of the VC networks that we have. And I also feel like there's a lot of VCs who are more open to talking to early stage startups here than maybe in some other markets. So that's my perspective.
Thank you. So we'll be more practical, like programs and then some of the experiences that you have. So from the NYCEDC and then dorm room, could you explain a little bit more of your programs and how the students can actually benefit from those programs?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So for us, like as Dorm Room Fund, just for a little bit of context for you guys, we are a completely student-run investment firm. We have real LPs. Dorm Room Fund was actually spun out of First Round Capital a couple years ago. We actually just okay. They say that this is live stream, so I can't reveal like some things, but let's just say that we are finishing up investing out of our first independent fund. And we have LPs, including, like Mark Andreessen and Gary Tan. And so they give us their hard-earned money to burn as students, so we take that very seriously. We have about 60 student partners from across the country, split up into 4 regional teams, and I lead the New York City Midwest team. So we, on our team, have coverage everywhere from Yale to Columbia to NYU, all the way out to University of Michigan, Northwestern, U Chicago, all of that. The SF team, as you can imagine, covers all of California. And then we have Boston Northwest team, Northeast team, and we have a Philly Southeast team. So between all of us, we are all recruited every year. So if you are a student sitting here right now and you might be interested in becoming part of the Dorm Room Fund team, we run annual recruitment in September. So keep your eye out. We really do look at any campus. We want as much diversity in campuses as possible. And we just want to see that you're really interested in venture and you have built a network of founders around you and that you have this deep curiosity. If you were a founder, please come talk to us. Like I said, there's 60 of us. Shouldn't be too hard to find one of us on campus. We are everywhere. We are right next to you in class. We are a part of the entrepreneurship club. We are part of the whatever entrepreneurial ecosystem is already on campus. And we're just here to support. A lot of times I will take calls with founders and advise them to not take a check, because I think that's not in their best interest, right? Like my favorite part of my job is that I get to just talk to student founders and figure out what's best for them. And if they are at a place where they're ready to raise and we think that Dorm Room Fund could be a good fit, then I bring this back to the team and we can go through kind of the investment process at Dorm Room Fund. And all the investment decisions are made by students. So when you pitch us instead of, what might be a little bit intimidating, like, these like VCs, like we're here to, it's a very supportive environment. And so whether you're a student founder or an aspiring student investor, we can be here for you.
And then lucky for everybody today, the Linda's right here. So if you have any things, questions that you want to ask after this panel, feel free to find her. And ask
one more
questions.
thing. I want to plug our summer tracks. I think Sojung actually mentioned that to me. So we have these tracks for over the summer. So you can apply usually in like May. And it's just it's a small community, it's curated, and it's a great way to kind of learn what it's actually like. We try to like prime you with like really great speakers, and again, just a small community of people. And that the purpose of our summer programs is to change the face of entrepreneurship and founders. So we have like a women's track, we have a PhD track, we have an underrepresented, it's all at Blueprint, which is for folks from underrepresented backgrounds. And so it really is about, changing the face of entrepreneurship and VC. And we would love to see any of you guys apply for over the summer.
And then you can find it on our website?
Yeah, dormroomfund.com.
All right.
But we only do those over the summer. So it's not, summer track information isn't up just yet, but check again in the spring.
And then Melissa, let's talk a little bit more about the NYCEDC's program that is supporting for the early stage startup founders.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm going to build off a little bit of what Linda was saying before in terms of building that kind of like equitable talent pipeline and really giving experiences to people who may not have seen themselves as a startup before, seen themselves at a VC before, but are interested, are curious, and want to be in the space. So I feel like our programs, I'll talk about the startup and VC internship programs first. I feel like we have a vast profile of students who apply for this program, people who know that they want to be founders, or know that they want to be in VC and are just looking for, an opportunity to like have that work experience, and people who maybe don't know. Maybe this could be their first experience at a startup or VC, and they're just curious and want to learn more about the ecosystem, and they just want to apply. So I feel like we have both people who apply to this program, and so I just want to make sure that people know that it's very expansive in terms of the people that we're looking for. Because I also feel that people who work in these environments, like they will build skills that can, yes, help them to become founders and entrepreneurs, but then also can help them build a skill set that could go any place, and they can explore, and maybe they decide to do something else. But those kind of skills that you build when you're working at either like these startups or VC firms are very transferable in the future. So that's the first thing. The startup and VC internship programs are paid 10-week summer internship programs here in New York City with either startups or VC firms. Very often, early stage startups are a majority of the hosts that we have going through our program, although we have growth stage startups as well. And there's a pre-internship training week before the programs begin. And this is giving students startup or VC 101. It's giving them some training on like soft skills, like communication, time management, how to build the storytelling and like tell the story of who you are, which is very important when you're kind of like in these types of environments. And then also some technical skills as well. So on the VC side, it's learning a lot more about kind of like deal flow and like reading like a lot of different like financial documents. And then like on the startup side, we do like Gen AI training, and you're learning how to build a custom GPT or like vibe coding essentially. So there's a lot of that first pre-internship training week really sets the tone for then going into your internships for the remaining 9 weeks. And then there's also mentorship and professional development throughout these programs. So you're being matched with a mentor from the industry, and you're able to, talk to them about your experience, talk to them about like your thoughts about your career, get their advice. We also think this is a way to like build a student's network, because that's kind of like one of the main reasons why we have this program, to really like give opportunities, build networks for people that maybe don't have that kind of like generational network through these programs. And then there's also professional development as well. So different events throughout the summer that again are going to be continuing to craft your skills, expose you more to the startup and VC world, and then also connect with your cohort. You'll be with a cohort of students who all are interested in like very similar things to you. And I think it's also a great way to build community. So that's a little bit about that program, those
Thank
programs.
you. Yeah. And then speaking of the programs, Unsu here participated and won so many different awards, right? So how do you actually navigate which one that you're going to apply? And what are some of the criteria you're looking for?
Actually, I didn't have any criteria. I just like apply as many as possible. I just like, I'm using my insight and like humanity perspective and made a like project or products, and like I just be myself. I can like pretend as like others, or I do not want to create a new stuff for the like one certain like awards. I just like put many insights and then like put some also like humanity stuff, like one project, and then make a like meaningful piece. And I just like apply the many competitions. If they like, it will be great. But if they don't like it, it's still meaningful for me. So I think just put a lot of insights and talk with a lot of people as many as possible, and then like make your own piece and search some like chance to get some like make your name or like establish your name in the world. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. All right. So the dorm room fund, Linda, offers multiple different tracks, including the Blueprint Project, Prism Investor Track, Woman Founder, and Investor Track, and etc. And the PhD track you talked about, right? So is there any qualities or mindset that dorm room funds is looking for student founders?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's actually the same answer for both investors and founders that we're looking for, right? So when we recruit, not only for summer track, but also for when we do full fall recruitment, and also we look for founders, and it's curiosity, right? I think the best founders lead with curiosity, and the best investors lead with humility and curiosity. It's really astounding like what that can lead us to build, because I really think that if you're interested in something, you kind of learn about it without thinking about it, right? Like it doesn't feel like work. And so the best founders have this like near encyclopedic knowledge of the space that they're building in. And I think for investors, depending on whether you're a very, vertical focused investor or if you're a generalist, I'm more of a generalist, you also need to have this ability to really dive in and learn a lot about the space, to be able to evaluate it, and also to be able to partner with the founder to figure out, to refine their idea and refine their business model. And so what I love about my job is that I get to dive in really deep on learning about things I never thought I would learn about. I mean, this past week we heard a pitch for AI for computer-assisted design, like CAD. I have never been a mechanical engineer, and I had to learn about what geometric kernels were this week. Not an expert, but it was definitely interesting to learn about. And I think that's the same quality that, like I said, we look for in both investors and in founders, being able to demonstrate that they're able to kind of be able to do this and ask the right questions and just lead with curiosity.
And then Melissa, I think it's hard to kind of track which path will be the founder track versus investor track. So when you're working with students, whether through the internship or the founder fellowships, how would students figure out whether they're better suited for either student track, the founder track, or the VC track?
Yeah, and also good flag about the founder fellowship, which I completely forgot to talk about a few minutes ago. So EDC also has a founder fellowship program, which is made for early stage founders. We have 4 operators who are VCs who run this program. One of them is Gold House Ventures, and those offer, individualized work plans, access to capital, really like network. And then also just like giving early stage founders resources that are going to get them to the next stage and the next level. Holly, you know about this program because you were a founder. I don't know if you want to actually talk a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, thank you.
Bring it back to you.
Totally off the script. I love it. So I did the founder fellowship through the Visible Hands about 2 years ago, and an amazing experience. It really helped us to train as a founder. Founders doing a lot of different things, talking to investors, selling product to the customers. And so it helped us to build not just as a founder, as our job that we do, but also understanding our mental health. our well-beings. We're dealing with so many different stress, right? And so I think of being connected with the ecosystems and the community that really support founders, that really help us to cultivate how we're going to be comfortable where we are in the difficult, challenging places, but also make sure that we deal with the mental health. Okay. Speaking of the mental health, now Unsu, you build some of the pitch competitions, and you attend a lot of different design competitions, etc. What are some of the roles that you think is important joining as a startup?
I think these days, like we're living in a like AI era, and then like industry do not want to like entry level anymore. But which means that like if you guys can like average AI stuff, it can be like a great entry level assistance for your job as well. So right now, I feel like product strategy is the most attractive job these days because it combines engineering stuff, design stuff, also like the marketing stuff as well. So if you're a designer and then if you can get a job, then just like using AI as like a marketing assistance, and you guys can combine those kind of stuff and then like create a new role and new job for you guys for self. So and then like product strategy, it has to like consider about like the brand field, and then engineering aspect also like it also care about the user experience. So using the AI and then create a new role or like still like keep like try to like catch up some like trend in like a tech industry. So yeah.
And this is probably one of my favorite questions to ask: mistakes. We all make mistakes and then learn the lessons in a hard way. And so the practical advice to the audience and the students here, learning more about the mistakes, how to navigate the timing, and then balance between the founder life and the VC track and working with the EDCs, etc. So asking the questions first to Melissa. From your work across policy and workforce development, what skills do students consistently underestimate in a startup ecosystem?
Yeah. When we think about the workforce programs that we're putting together, we think about how when you're in the tech ecosystem or in the VC ecosystem, not everyone who works, first of all, I'll say two things. One, not everyone who works in the tech ecosystem is a software engineer. Not everyone who's in the VC ecosystem is doing like financial analysis and is an investment analyst. Many people are, but there's so many other skill sets and so many other types of jobs. So first, I think that people might underestimate, like, if I don't know how to code, like I can't, be in this space. That's not true. So that's one part of it. Another part of it, I think, is a lot of those differentiating factors when we're looking at hiring in the program and thinking about who is kind of like the best candidate. For the startup and VC internship programs, we find that initiative, drive, enthusiasm, curiosity, these are things that set students apart from students that just have the technical skills and they apply and they're not really showcasing a little bit more about the holistic picture of who they are. So people who are like working at startups or people who are working at these VC firms, like they want to know that you're going to communicate with them, you're going to be proactive, you're going to follow up, you're taking initiative and like suggesting ideas for them on certain things that they should be doing because they're moving fast, they're moving quickly, that you have curiosity, that you actually ask questions about the work, that you want to learn more, and that you are open to learning and open to feedback. I think these are a lot of traits, not just in the startup ecosystem, but just like in the working world in general, that I feel like a lot of people want to work with people like that, people who are curious, people who ask questions, people who take initiative, and people who show enthusiasm, are like, wow, like I love the idea that you're building, like I want to contribute to this, and see it as an opportunity for them to grow. I feel like a lot of the people who go through our programs, again, like either they want to build something themselves one day, and so that's why they want to work at a startup and VC firm. And to your question earlier, I feel like startup or VC, like there's positives and negatives to both. Like positive at the startup level, like you're getting to see how people build on the ground. VC level, you're seeing how people make these investment decisions about who to invest in. So I think both programs could be a good fit for people depending on the context you want to be in. But overall, I feel like those kind of skills are also things that we're looking for.
Thank you. Speaking of making mistakes, Eunsu, you want to talk a little bit of some of the mistakes that you made and then learned in a hard way?
I think in my life I didn't have any mistake. All of those kind of mistake gave me some insight. I changed my job a lot. I started my career as a journalist, and I changed my job as a marketer. And then after that, I did some software engineer job. After that, I also do some business development in South Korea. Now I'm designer. Now I'm working as a product strategy, but it's more focused on the design field. I feel like some of them said you made a lot of mistake, but I think those kind of experience helped me to grow up. So I try to think positive way. There's no mistake in the life.
Like that. And then Linda, what is the one thing that student founders that actually hurt their chance with investors, even when the idea is really strong?
Okay, I have an entire list, so I'm going to pull it out.
Wow.
And well, first of all, I think that is such a founder quality, to be able to see, maybe a setback as an opportunity. I really think I think we've been discussing this, that is definitely a quality of a great founder. Okay, so I want to preface this by saying that at Dorm Room Fund, we understand that for a lot of founders, this is their first time talking to an investor, right? The whole point is that we are your peer. We're not here to be intimidating. We're very supportive, and we understand that you might not, quote, know how to talk to an investor. I always give feedback. I always try to be as nice as possible. That being said, I made this list of things to try not to do, because if you talk to other investors, these are things that might make them pass, just on the spot. We wouldn't do that. I would usually give feedback, but just here's some things not to do. One, don't tell an investor that you think your product will sell itself. It will not sell itself. Any founder in the room knows that doesn't happen. I'm sure it's a great product. You still need to sell it, right? There's a reason why there are existing products in the market. Number two, when I ask you, how are you going to navigate this competitive landscape? It's a question I get. I always ask founders. There are founders who will tell me, well, we don't have any competitors. I feel like if you're telling me that, you're not looking hard enough. So I would also encourage you to do a little bit of research before you meet with an investor, whether that's me, whether that's anyone else at Dorm Room Fund, any investor. Give them a sense of how you are thinking critically about your market, about the problems to be solved, who's going to be buying it. Because I assure you, there are always competitors, even if they're not perhaps direct competitors. Three, it's thinking that founders know the answer better than their customers do, which is that ultimately you're building for the person who is going to be paying for your product. And that comes from being really close to your customer. That comes from talking very often to your customers and trying to figure out how to pivot your product around or try to build to solve their problem. Because ultimately, and this is what I, again, love about working with founders, your job is to solve someone else's problem. And finally, it's about you need to think that your customer is smart, right? It might be easy to think, oh, I'm just trying to build this thing for, this very antiquated, outdated industry. But you have to assume that your customers are there. If you're building a B2B product, they're using something they're frustrated by. They are very smart. They're very discerning. And if you build a product for smart people, it will be a smart product. Right. And so that's why I always try to tell people when they talk about users, just always think about your customer as your guiding light and that they are very smart and discerning and your product will come along that way.
I'm so glad that we're recording this so that we can looking into Linda's list again. We have one last question for the panels, and we'll be saving some rooms for students to ask questions as well. This question is about the burnouts and the balance. So to all panelists here today, how can students balance school, internships, and startup ambitions without burning out? Let's start with Eunsu first.
Oh, can I share my thought at the end? Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Melissa, you want to go first?
Okay. So when I was a student, I was in like 5 different clubs, and I had an internship, and and I was trying to study and like not fail my classes and do well. So I have experienced burnout a lot, and you sound surprised. And I feel like the things that got me through it were a few things. One is kind of understanding like what your priorities are. If you give yourself to like 10 different things, then you are never going to be able to fully like go into one thing very well. You are always going to be half-heartedly going into 10 things like 50%. And I feel like that also affects a lot of, first of all, your experience, and then also how well you think you're doing. Because personally for me, if I'm investing like 50% across 10 different things, then I'm always going to feel disappointed in myself that I'm not going, like doing so well in something if I could contribute more time for it. So I think it's also thinking about in your head, like what is my true priority, and also what can I realistically do? Like not pushing myself to my limit, but also just understanding like what is realistic for me to achieve, and also thinking about like I'm sure that a lot of people in this room, because you're ambitious, because you're entrepreneurially minded, you have high standards for yourself. That is totally fine. But then also you have to think about like, okay, I have these high standards for myself, but also how can I forgive myself, be kind to myself, and like understand that sometimes things take longer than maybe I want them to, or maybe, like reaching your goals. And that's what I would say. Like, be kind to yourself, understand what you can realistically do, and then also prioritize like what has the most meaning for me, where I want to like spend my time and efforts. So those are a few things.
Be kind to yourself. Really nice. Linda?
Yeah, I'm so glad you went first because I would plus one everything that she just said. And it's funny because backstage, I was just talking about how as a student right now, I'm in my final semester, I get really burnt out by the end of, the semester before a break because you're trying to do so much all the time. And so just like Melissa said, I think it's really important to find things that give you energy. It's really important to prioritize, kind of ruthlessly prioritize. Let go of anything that people say you should be doing. And only do the things you have to do school, right? Like if you're in school, you have to, I'm obviously also trying to graduate and not fail my classes. But other than that, like I think dorm room fun is a great example of something that really gives me energy. Our pitches sometimes have to align with other time zones. They're usually in the evenings. But I am always shocked at just like how much I love being on student pitches and like just being with the rest of my investment team, such that even if it's like 9 p.m. at night, we just got off a call, I will like sometimes call another partner just like keep talking about it because like we just love talking about this stuff. And I realize it never drains me, it gives me energy. And I'm very lucky to have found something like that. And I hope that if you're a founder, like I said earlier, if you're truly obsessed with the idea, if you think it's meaningful to you, you will learn more about it without feeling like it's draining for you. And then, of course, there are things you're always like, oh, I have to like do the dishes and, stuff like that. Like there's like life stuff. But I hope you're able to take care of yourself, to find time for yourself and find things and find people that give you energy instead of drain it.
Saving the best for the last.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, I'm a dopamine addict, so I never experienced burnout, I guess. But so I'm gonna share the like another insight for you guys. If you guys didn't have a like summer internship, then I will definitely say you guys apply some job in San Francisco or Bay Area because I intentionally applied some job in San Francisco because I want to get some like I want to know about the like tech trend and I just want to be like read some like US market. But you guys already know that like San Francisco is the one of the like most tech savvy city in the world. And then I figure out that like when they create some like startup, they focus on the human, not like tech. But it's pretty hard to understand if you guys do not have any experience in San Francisco. So like if you guys have to apply a job or internship and you guys want to be a like entrepreneur, you guys must go to the San Francisco because I graduate SVA, like it's a design school, but I intentionally like applied as a like engineer in San Francisco because I want to gain some like insight from there. So I think this is the one of my tip. And just you guys already know that like you guys have like own your story, and then that kind of experience can like replace from others. So trust yourself and believe yourself, make your own stuff to make a new solution for the world. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Do we have some time for questions? Do a Q&A. If you have any questions, raise your hand and let us know. Yes.
Here's your mic.
Okay. Hi. My name's Juno, and I'm currently studying computer science at NYU. I have a question for Melissa. I'm also interested in VC, but as a software engineer, I don't really know much about it. And I wanted to ask you if there are many cases where software engineers became or entered a VC economy, and also, if so, what are some traits that you think that software engineers can study or learn to enter that economy?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Juno. So, yes. What I was saying a little bit before was that there are a lot of non finance related roles at VC firms. So we have a lot of software engineering interns that are interning at VCs. VCs also need software engineers. They also need people in operations. They need people in marketing. So it's still a business, and so they still are looking for that. I think that in terms of like what you want to learn about, if you don't have that experience in VC, first of all, this program does give an understanding of VC, so it will give you that VC 101 in case you don't have that background. But if you want to be proactive about it, learning a little bit more about the lingo and jargon in terms of like, okay, how do VCs operate, and kind of like, okay, I understand like the deal flow process. I understand kind of like the goals, even like looking up different VCs as examples so that you kind of understand the world a little bit better. And like, oh, here's an example of like a New York City like VC firm that seems like really cool. This is what they're investing in, so that when you apply to the program and then, you know, hopefully go to the interview stage and like are able to showcase yourself, you also can show that you already have some of that understanding and also that enthusiasm. And that's how you can showcase your enthusiasm for the program. So hopefully that is helpful.
Can I answer this question too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Juno, let me just say this. If you're a CS major, you're already a better investor than I am because I'm not technical, right? And half of my team, like the New York City Midwest like dorm room team, are computer science majors right now, right? And so I think there feels like a disconnect between being a software engineer and becoming like an investor. And I think that is more about your own interest in kind of looking at the bigger picture, right? It's like, what are some areas that are really exciting right now? Because you're technical, you're actually way better than I can ever be at identifying like a technical moat, like what is really new about this technology, right? You're closer to figuring out what works, what doesn't work, what is possible and what's not. And so if you're interested in something like this, like I would encourage you to start reading and start learning more about industries and markets and emerging technologies and figuring out how you now understand how these things are built, right, as a computer science major. This is also a great time for me to shout out Andrew Chang, because he's at NYU. So for anyone here, he's not here, unfortunately, today. But Andrew Chang and Dorothy Chang have built an organization called Links Collective, bringing together the New York City tech ecosystem. And he is actually an adjunct professor right now at NYU. He teaches a class on building and scaling venture scale startups. So if you're a aspiring founder in the room, you should go take his class. He also, I think, runs an investor intensive. So he gathers like a small group of students and kind of puts them through this program. He has incredible connections. So he brings in, like real investors and GPs to talk to these students and kind of expose them to the world of investing. So if anyone here at NYU, I think those are great resources.
I think it just opened up like for CS students to think about not just for the software developer track, but also there's a potential pathway
for sure.
in a VCs and investors track as well. Any other questions?
First of all, thank you all for sharing your insights. So my name is Judy Wei. I really like Melissa's answer to the previous question. So I wonder, like, when you want get yourself familiar with the jargons for the field, you want to make yourself talk like the insider. So like, I wonder if you like, what's the like very practical way to do that? Like, for example, maybe you join some finance like stock pitch competition or some biotech clubs. So I just don't want I just don't know like how to really work on myself to really talk the language. Maybe you can elaborate more. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And can you also share? I don't know if I caught like what you're studying and your school.
I study computational chemistry. I work on some protein modeling, but I also like want to kind of like pivot to finance or like the entrepreneur side. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to Linda's point earlier, I also feel like having that kind of like background in a certain subject matter is also super helpful when you're thinking about like, okay, the investments that VCs are making, for example, like investments in healthcare or, you know, investments in other industries. I'll just use healthcare as an example here, or investments in life sciences. So I think, first of all, you do have a kind of like advantage in terms of like subject matter where now you can bring that as kind of like an asset, like, hey, like I already know about this topic, and if you find, for example, a VC that you're interested in that is also investing in the same areas, that could already be an asset. To your question, on kind of like practical ways, I think you're already starting to think about it in terms of like, what are clubs, if I'm not studying that personally, where are some clubs on campus where I can get involved, volunteering, something like dorm room fun as well, and looking at their recruiting events. And now that you have that enthusiasm, also consider the VC internship program that I'm talking to you about, because we bring a lot of students in who this is their first time working at a VC and even understanding what a VC does. And so when we have that pre-internship training week and we give you that kind of like VC 101, that's when we're going to be giving you a lot of these like terms and definitions to kind of get you on your way so that you already have like a running start when then you start interning with the VC firms.
We'll be wrapping up. Any other questions? So we talk a lot about the applications and important deadlines coming up. So just reminding for EDCs, we have different application tracks, and for the Korea Society also have some application coming up. So we just wanted to highlight that as well. So Melissa, you want to remind us of the applications dues coming up?
Yes, so our startup applications are due February 20th. Our VC applications are due February 28th. You can find, we have a website, edc.nyc/SVIP, and also the Korea Society will send you these links as well. I can send the individual applications, but the /SVIP is the one that's going to have like both programs. So you can just like click in and look at the applications. Yeah.
And then the dorm room also has applications coming up?
Not for a couple months, but summer track information usually comes out sometime in May. And then our annual recruitment usually happens in late August, early September. We always do events in New York City and SF and all the other hubs. And you should definitely just go look on campus. Again, our current partners are everywhere during recruitment. But for sure, just keep your eye out on those applications and those events coming live in September.
And then for the Korea Society also has an application due coming up?
Yes. So I guess actually this could be, we can just wrap up this session just with my chance of pitching for the emerging design competition. So we are currently receiving the application. So this is just a 1 year about idea. And you can just create a team. And so the application is closing on March 30th. And you can apply online. Please visit the Korea Society website, or just Google Emerging Design Competition. The Korea Society will get more information. One thing that I just wanted to emphasize is that this is not just for students with a Korean background. So the team requirement is just having one team member with a Korean heritage tie. So we wanted to facilitate, collaboration across like diverse backgrounds. So keep that in your mind. And so please apply. It comes with mentorship opportunities and networking opportunities and also prize. And I like to wrap up this session with giving a big applause to our wonderful panelists.